hand, that's a really, really good thing to protect your brain. On the other hand, if you have like a brain tumor or something and you're trying to get medicine into the brain, that can be a inhibiting barrier. But the blood-brain barrier is there to protect your brain. What in the COVID shots, particularly the spike proteins, were able to cross the blood-brain barrier and go in and cause a disruption of neurological connections, particularly in your frontal lobe. And your frontal lobe is what the area of your brain that sits behind your forehead, and it talks about emotion, emotive language, inhibitions, like things like you want to say, but then you think, oh, that maybe I shouldn't say that. That's your frontal lobe that stops those things.
Oh, I don't have that part functioning. I just say whatever. I just say whatever needs to be said. I've managed to turn that part off.
So, when you hear people and they have, aggressive road rage, or they just, suddenly they're spouting off things at you that they would have never done before, and with some cruelty and not really thinking it through of maybe even the way that they're saying it, that they could say the same thing, but without delivering it with a sledgehammer. That's frontal temporal lobe dysfunction. That's frontal temporal over here in your temple area dysfunction. And the spike protein can go across the blood-brain barrier and can go in and cause disruption in those neurological connections. And I'm like you, Mike, I've heard countless stories of people who've said that, my parents got, both jabs and a booster, and they're just not the same people. They just, you can't relate to them as the same. They don't seem to have any empathy. They're, when I try to talk to them, they seem really angry and aggressive. That is a COVID vaccine injury. In fact, when Pfizer came out with that first tranche of documents that they were required to do by law, and in that was one of the first documents that had over 1,200 diseases and conditions and syndromes that they knew were part of the side effect profile, even before they released the jabs. I've used that document and have said to people who approach me, and maybe like the same, they approach you and they go, do you think that the COVID jab can cause, and then just fill in the blank with whatever condition that you can possibly think of? My answer to that is always yes. Because they had 1,200 things. I'm sure you can find a related syndrome or condition on that list. And if they isn't on that list, then it's something that could be very well cross-related to the things that were on that list.
And what's important, too, I think, is that these 40 mechanisms of injury, they can create bizarre combinations of symptoms or syndromes. I mean, even just 40 base mechanisms, the way that they proliferate throughout the body and affect different organs and different systems can be very complex. I know of someone, for example, who has suffered some kind of severe neurological chronic pain ever since taking the first jab, and she only took the first jab, nothing after that, but she felt a neurological deadness for a couple of weeks. That was probably the shot carrying out the nerve damage and doing the lobotomy. And then after that, she has suffered a painful existence ever since. But she can't put her finger on it. It's not like, a limb hurts or a specific organ hurts. It's like neurological pain on fire from the moment you wake up all day long, every day.
Yeah. Well, again, can you fill in the gap from that? One of the things that I did when I put together these 40 mechanisms is that I divided things into category. Category 1 vaccine injury is people who die sudden deaths, like and this is well documented, that they died within a big peak on the bell curve within the first 48 hours of getting their jabs. That's, category 1, sudden death from heart attack, strokes, blood clots, within the first 24 to 48 hours. We've kind of passed that window now, unless people are still getting jabs. The category 2 is what is classified as spike protein disease. The spike protein exists, and because of the messenger RNA replication, that it goes on and on forever. It doesn't stop because it's been synthetically modified. Our regular messenger RNA in our body breaks down really quickly. We've got enzymes that break it down really quickly. And if they were to inject a shot that just had regular messenger RNA into our system, it would be degraded very quickly. I mean, within a matter of hours, and certainly within a matter of a couple of days. But they figured that out, and they synthetically modified it, and they replaced a nucleic acid called uridil with pseudouridil. And when they put pseudouridil in there, it allows the messenger RNA to not only stay in existence and then wrapped it around a lipid nanoparticle to stay in existence, it allows it to replicate over and over and over again indefinitely. In fact, there were some autopsies that were done within the first 8 to 10 to 12 months on people who had died, and they found that the messenger RNA with the pseudouridil in it were continuing to replicate and create spike proteins. So category 2 is spike protein disease, and that can be neurologic, it can be cardiovascular, it can affect your lungs, your kidneys, your reproductive organs. That all happens, and that is also, because it happens in perpetuity, when I first came out this and people were going, oh yeah, Dr. Tenpenny, tinfoil hat, conspiracy theory, when do you think you're going to start seeing all these deaths? And I said at that time in 2021, I said it's going to be 3 to 5 years out that we're going to start seeing a hockey stick puck of deaths and happening around the world. And that is where we are and what we are seeing right now.
That's exactly where we are. Cancer deaths are skyrocketing. That's all borne out in the statistics. And so-called turbo cancers appear to be one of the effects of this spike protein disease that you call it. But also we're seeing a lot more deaths of younger people from probably, heart conditions, myocarditis, and clots. A lot of new information about clots is coming out now. Again, 2 years after I was talking about this with Dr. Jane Ruby, back a couple of years ago, and then it kind of went away, and now it's back. But it's still getting worse. That's the thing. And
well, that's category 2, Mike. That's a spike protein spike up. But then there's a big class of people out there that say, well, I got the jabs and I seem to be okay. I don't have any problems. I'm not dead yet. And I don't have any of these underlying health conditions. And my response to that is, well, you perhaps fall into category 3, which is autoimmune diseases, because it can take months to years for autoimmune diseases to really ramp up and become a real problem.
Yes.
And early on, I spoke to a couple of immunologists who said to me, Sherri, we are in big trouble. For the next 10 years, within the next 10 years, we're going to see rampant autoimmune disease unlike anything that we've ever seen before. So that's, so now we've got sudden death, a big ramp up of deaths within 3 to 5 years, ongoing more slower kill off factors up to 10 years. And then category 4 is some of what you mentioned about the turbo cancers that are happening primarily in leukemias, lymphomas, breast cancer. You see it also in prostate cancer. Those are some of the top 4. You also see the big infertility problem that has happened, and that's happening all over the world because the spike protein gets involved with the ovaries and testes in young people. The myocarditis, which has become common, and we talk about it commonly now. So you've got 4 categories, and the reason why I think this is so important to keep talking about it and to go back and review it and keep it on people's mind is 2 things. The first thing is that for some unknown reason, there's a big swatch of humanity that's been living underneath a rock, and they're just now finding out about these things. And the second thing is that if we know about it, we can talk to people about don't get any more boosters. You've already damaged your immune system to a certain degree, and we know what it does with the toll-like receptors, which shuts down your body's ability to fight regular garden variety influenza and different things like that. And that's why people who've had the COVID jabs tend to get sick more. They have more of the flu. They have regular coronavirus infections. They have RSV. They have all these different things because their immune systems have been so damaged,
yes,
even with one shot. So it's like we have to keep people aware of this. And I'm thinking, too, maybe category 3 is that at some point, Mike, the 100th Bucky's going to show up, and we're going to tip over the top, and people are going to get it, and they're going to be enraged about it, and they were going to really force transparency and accountability for what our government has not only allowed, but what they've actively been involved in doing to us.
Well, that's why this topic and your content is so critical, and that's why for those of you watching, it's really a great idea to become familiar with this. Watch the free presentation, the multi-part series.